Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead, let's do another entry here based on one of your newer suggestions. This one has to do with a pretty good suggestion in the sense that it's almost like 3 for 1. And that's because it's more along the lines of a tale of three giants. These are the cryptids themselves and a particular area that they dwelled on for the longest time, way back when. And to this very day, their legends are still told. There's even some festivities tied to these giants. And when I was reading each particular tale, it was fascinating to read how some of them are depicted as very violent, and then the last one almost very tragic, like very, very sad. So when it comes to this video, it's almost like a bonus because essentially you get three cryptids all in one. And it has to do with this. The overall theme are known as the Giants of Cornwall, but again, I'm going to talk about three of them specifically within this video. So let's go ahead, let's talk about all the fascinating information associated with these three giants. So what were these Giants of Cornwall? Well, Cornwall itself is a location there in the United Kingdom. I believe it's somewhere within towards the outskirts, like a little bit further away of the United Kingdom, a couple miles out there. If you go out there, you're looking at pictures of it now, like it seems like it's very peaceful, very beautiful, by the sea, lots of open area, lots of space, nothing like essentially that you would normally see unless you happen to live out by the beach. But when it comes to these tales at that location, there's a lot of unique formations around that area of Cornwall, specifically rock formations, and then also having to do with these boundaries, stuff that just looks out of the ordinary. And the way the stories go is these formations are none other than the creation of giants that used to live within the area way back when. Who knows what time it was? Tales like this go back several centuries, so with regards to their origin, maybe they're just mythical, maybe they're more on the lines of legends, who knows. But to this very day, these are how those formations apparently were created. So let's go ahead, let's talk about the first one, probably the biggest giant that lived within that area. It was a giant by the name of Bolster. In fact, he was the largest, by far the largest one of all. And the way it was known was that he used to live on a hill that at that time was known as Carnabury Anocht, but is today known as St. Agnes's Beacon, which you're looking at a picture of here. And the way the story goes, he was so large, he could essentially stand on one foot on one hill, and then his other foot would be on the way other side of called Cambria, which I'll talk about in a little bit because it has to do with yet another giant. And the way it goes, like that is so large that you can actually have it stretch about 6 miles to be specific. That's how large he was. And to this very day, there's a footprint of his that is within one of the stones because again, he was so large, so heavy that that's his footprint. In fact, you're looking at a picture of his footprint right now. Kind of fascinating, although if the idea is that he was that large, again almost stretching up towards the sky, his footprint is really tiny. I mean, in that sense of proportion, it's larger than a human's, but not as large as something that would support, let's say, something on the lines of somebody that has a step of about 6 miles. But that's the way the story goes with regards to this Giant Bolster. He was someone that was not very nice, though, known for his foul tempers, someone that mistreated his wife, even to the point where he was openly flirtatious with some of the other women, especially a local woman by the name of Saint Agnes. And the way the story goes, he was pursuing her constantly. She was ignoring his pursuits, so much so that it was like a hindrance to her. Like she was telling him no, but he was not hearing it. And so finally she hatched an idea, something that would essentially, I guess, get things done in terms of not bothering her anymore, and then also seem to teach him a lesson for mistreating his wife and for just being someone that was just all around just a bad person, because also besides his foul tempers, he was known for eating children around that area. So she told him that she would be his, but all he had to do was just one thing. And it's a strange thing to ask, but apparently he just decided to go ahead and do it. He was supposed to fill the bottom of a cliff there at a location called Chapel Wharf. Now, what he would fill it with, who knows? But the idea is that she stated originally that it was supposed to be his blood. Again, strange notion. Like, why would he jump into this? But he did so. And so the way he did it was he placed his arm over that giant hole, cut a deep gash within it, almost as if like he was committing suicide, and then just watched as the blood slowly started to fill the gap. And there he was, content, thinking that he would have enough blood to do so and then be able to have St. Agnes as his. But with the hole not nearly even close to being full, and then him very, very weak from his blood loss, he discovered that he was not going to be able to do so, but he still went forward as much as he could, and even as the last portion of his blood filled up that place, and he essentially ended up dying, he was not even close to fulfilling it. So she was able to essentially trick him into sacrificing his life and making sure that he was no longer able to do anything bad to her, the children around that area, or to his wife. But that's the story associated with that giant called Bolster. So there's another giant as well, this one with an area there in Cornwall called St. Michael's Mount. And again, it's the idea that there's a lot of things within that area that were created by him as a giant. He was someone that wasn't as big as the other one. Instead, he was about 18 feet tall, but he too was pretty vicious. He was someone that was able to terrorize the nearby towns. He stole a lot of the cattle, ate a lot of the cattle too, stole some of the children as well, to also eat them. You see a recurring theme here. And then his favorite thing in the world was to steal a lot of people's precious treasures, so much so that he created an island around that area to store all of the stolen treasure, in particular one of the caves there. And the way the story goes is he would essentially just continue to terrorize this area, so much so that finally one of the locals there decided that they wanted to take care of business. A reward was offered, and a guy by the name of Jack, a young man, decided to claim this reward if they were able to essentially destroy this giant. And so Jack came out, but before he did so, he created a gigantic hole, probably hit it with some kind of brush, something to help cover everything. And then over an entire night, and then the following morning he blew a hunting horn, drawing the attention of this giant, and then basically challenging him to a duel. By the way, this giant was named Morand, if I'm not mistaken. That's the giant's name specifically. So this Morand answered the call, ran after this young man, Jack, and of course he fell into that trap. And then when he did so, it was either something like it was completely covering him with dirt automatically, or there were some kind of spikes within the hole. Whatever was the case, he was stuck within the hole, this giant, and the only thing that protruded out of the hole was the giant's head. So Cormoran was completely stuck, nothing he could do. Jack, of course, was the victor at that point, and then he finalized his victory by taking a tool called a mattock, which you're looking at now, and then doing a final blow to the giant's head, killing it outright. And so to this very day, if you go there to that location, there's a large boulder, and it's known as the giant's grave. That's purportedly the marking point of the giant Cormoran and his final resting place. Quite interesting. I wonder if anybody has ever actually gone into that area and then tried to see if they could find anything like giant bones, something that indicates that something was truly buried there. Interesting stuff. Finally, the last giant had to do with an area called Carngalva. Again, another area that has giant stones, areas involving mounds that just seem out of the ordinary. and there was a giant that lived there, and that's why those stones are there to this very day. This one, though, was far different from the other giants. Still very big, but very, very nice. In this case, rather than kidnapping children and eating them, he preferred playing with them. That was one of his favorite things to do. He was there to make friends. He was there to play games with anybody that was around the area. And in one case, he was able to create a very good friend, a young boy by the name of Chun. That was his name specifically. And they played for the longest time ever. And then on one fateful day, however, they were playing, and as they promised each other, let's go ahead and then we'll catch up again tomorrow, the giant, of course, being so happy at this, of having such a close friend, he decided to tap Chun on the head, almost as a parting gift, like a nice warm see you later type thing. But when he did so, he did not realize the strength that he had, and so this giant, who didn't have a name and said he's known as just the Giant of Cornwall, accidentally, with his own strength, placed his finger straight through Chun's head. Obviously, that killed him instantly, because there was Chun's skull just completely crushed, his brains out on the other side, and this giant was just completely traumatized, not realizing that what kind of power his strength had. And so there he was, trying his best to revive his friend, cradling him, trying to push his brains back into his head, realizing, of course, that there was nothing else he could do. And so the idea goes that on that place, he spent the next 7 years just rocking back and forth in a very sad way, just crying and wailing, holding Chun's corpse to his body, just completely just enveloped by sadness of what occurred. And because of this, 7 straight years of a broken heart, this giant ended up dying away. So if you go to that Cornwall, it appears that that indentation, or that middle part there, was his resting place, like that. It was formed by him sitting on it, and then just over time, just creating that mound from his gigantic body, as he was just resting there, just crying throughout the next 7 years. Very, very sad story, but at least that's how the notion goes with that Cornwall area and the giant associated with it. But that's it. 3 cryptids in a row involving these giants of the area of Cornwall. Very fascinating stuff. It makes me wonder if anybody has truly tried again to see if they could find further evidence, stuff related to these giants. I remember one of my other videos that was talking about giants. That was a pretty popular video as well, but and there are other tales out there in this world about people that have experienced and seen these gigantic people that just lived sometime back then. Who knows, may still be out there, but at least in the area of Cornwall, that there's nothing there more recently, but who knows, there may still be giants out there just in secret. But if anybody has any more info, anybody been to that area, seen these places in particular, please post those comments below. That'd be really great to hear. I would love to go to one of these areas one of these days, especially try to see like those indentations, the footprints, the giant stones, just to see and marvel at the idea that they could have been created by giants. So alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.